Okay, let's plow on, boys. Over the weekend, staying with Bellator, across these two consecutive events, a number of fights went down in the Bellator World Grand Prix for the Bantamweight division. Now, let us talk about during Bellator 278 on Friday night. Danny Sabatello, unanimous decision victory over Jornel Lugo. 30-26 on all three judges' scorecards. And now Sabatello will go on to face Leandro Higo. Omar, let me start with you this time. What were your thoughts on Sabatello getting it done?
I mean, it's kind of an ass beating, that fight. Round two might have been the worst round of the entire fight. As far as the ass beating is concerned, I'm pretty sure was the 10-8 round. Yeah, man. It just honestly, that whole fight just seemed like it was Lugo trying to survive. He was almost more than a step behind in that fight the entire time, and by the end of it, just looked like he was trying to survive. Man, it got rougher to watch as the fight went on, just because of how good Sabatello was really putting it on him. It was crazy. It was a good fight from Sabatello.
Mark, your thoughts?
Danny Sabatello is a guy. Like that's a guy. I think Leandro Higo is in trouble, and I think that Danny Sabatello and Raufeon Stots is going to be one hell of a semifinal, assuming we get to that point. Obviously, we'll talk about Stots in a bit. Sabatello tortured Jornel Lugo, man. He was utterly relentless, never stops putting it on you. It had to be an almost helpless feeling for Jornel Lugo dealing with Sabatello's pressure, and Jornel Lugo is good, and he got worked. And then Sabatello just kills the post-fight interview, talking about his upcoming matchup with Leandro Higo, where he goes, yeah, it's a great matchup with Higo because you look at him and he fucking sucks, and you look at me and I'm really good. It's just an incredible quote.
Yeah.
This guy is very quickly becoming must-see TV.
Nice. Okay, Omar, what do you think about his matchup with Higo next?
Let's find out. So, where is this? Dude, their website has me messed up.
If you have technical... Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm good here. You're talking about for Sabatello?
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, so now he's in the rankings. He's officially number 9 in their rankings, which I think is perfectly fine. But to be honest, his skill level, I would probably put him up there with somebody.
Well, he's fighting Higo. We know who he's fighting.
Right.
Yeah.
Leandro Higo.
Yeah, I said it already, but I think Higo's in trouble. Maybe his jits can be a threat. I guess we haven't seen like a true jits guy under Sabatello, but I don't know if I'm seeing it. I think we might be marching toward a Sabatello Stots semifinal in this thing.
Ooh, yeah. God, I would love that.
Yeah, I don't really I don't have any reason to believe Sabatello can't run over Higo. Even the Stots one, his takedown defense is serious and his striking is a problem, but Sabatello is a beast, man. Sabatello is a beast. Man. I'm going to be very interested to see if somebody can stop him, how they stop him, because Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. On the same evening, Bellator 278, also as a qualifier for the Bellator World Grand Prix in the Bantamweight division, Enrique Barzola defeats Nikita Mikhailov by unanimous decision. By the way, Nikita was a late replacement for one Josh Hill. Barzola gets it done. Unanimous decision, 30-27 on all three judges' scorecards. It is unanimous, gentlemen. Mark, let me throw it over to you first. Share your thoughts on Barzola rolling.
I said it last week, and I will say it again. Enrique Barzola has been underrated. He is good everywhere the fight goes. You don't get to breathe, whether he's striking, wrestling, grappling. He's smart defensively. You know, he doesn't have an elite skill that makes him like jump off the page, but he's a modern fighter. Like Enrique Barzola does MMA. You know what I mean? And he looks really good right now.
Absolutely. Omar, your thoughts?
Yeah, Mikhailov gassed like super early in that fight. It looked like he was done by the end of round 1, maybe even towards the end, and not even the end of round 1. Barzola Barzola, I don't even know how many submission attempts Barzola had in there, but I should look up the stat to see exactly how many he threw up, because he was throwing up submissions from like every position that you could think of. And he did. He just seemed to be better in every position. Every time you thought Mikhailov might have had a sweep or some kind of reversal, and you saw, some sort of fight from him, Barzola was like, oh, that's nice. And then he reverses him. And now we're back to Barzola controlling the fight again. He's a beast, man. Barzola is definitely very, very good. I don't think I really knew about him before this fight, but I got to say, I'm at a point now where I really think that he might beat a Magomedov. I think it's totally possible that he beats a Magomedov.
Right. Speaking of, go ahead. Especially,
I was going to say, go for it.
With this win at Bellator 278, Barzola now is going to move on to match up with Magomedov. So I was just going to say, Omar, you're going to stick with you and ask for your thoughts on that impending matchup, but it looks like you are hopeful for Juan Enrique Barzola.
I am. I think his skills are very interesting, and his pace, I think, is also very interesting. Magomedov kind of relies on being able to control, being able to be heavy. Barzola doesn't look like he allows that. It looks like he defies physics when it comes to that. So I'd be very interested to see how he deals with Magomedov's kind of top game and top pressure, because it seems like he can, and he seems like he could come out of there with a submission. He may not have gotten it in this fight, but I was gonna say he may not have gotten a submission with all the submission attempts he threw up in this fast fight, but he might get one off of Magomedov.
Mark, your initial thoughts on Barzola mashing up with Magomedov?
Yeah, this is kind of the test of exactly what I was just mentioning. Like, we'll see if the well-roundedness of Barzola is enough to handle someone who actually has an elite skill, which is the wrestling of Magomedov. I'm sure Magomedov will be the betting favorite, but I wouldn't rule out Barzola, man. He'll make Magomedov work, if nothing else, so it should be a good one.
Nice. Okay, let's move on. Also, Mark, you should name your next child Priov. That's what it's like. Okay. Yeah. Or my son like Hans Hansen. That's silly. Okay.
That is what it's like.
Moving on. Bellator 279. Quarterfinal fights in the Bantamweight Bellator World Grand Prix. Raufeon Super Stots. Oh my God, this fight. This guy's kind of electric. I'm becoming a Stots fan. Round 3, TKO over Juan Archuleta. The official time coming at 16 seconds of round number 3. And in doing so, he advances in the Bellator Bantamweight World Grand Prix. God, that's a mouthful. As the interim Bellator Bantamweight World Champ. Mark, let me start with you this time again. What were your thoughts and your initial reaction to Raufeon Stots' devastating knee, ultimately getting the TKO over Juan Archuleta?
Raufeon Stots has officially arrived in Bellator's elite. He is, as you said, the interim bantamweight champion, and he did it in style, finishing Juan Archuleta. It was a really competitive fight through 2 rounds. Archuleta may have even been up 2-0. Granted, they were both close, but Stots was looking good as well. And if you remember from my preview last week, I said I thought the first and maybe even the second would go to Archuleta. He always tends to start strong, but I thought that the tide would turn in the second, maybe going into the third round. Granted, I thought it would turn in that Stots would start timing his takedowns and find ways to control Archuleta. I did not think it would turn by Stots throwing a head kick and having his knee connect dead on with Archuleta's face. So that was wild. That was a sick finish for Raufeon Stots, and we will see if he can live up to the fact that he is now the number 1 ranked bantamweight as we go through the rest of this Grand Prix here.
Omar, share your thoughts?
Yeah, I loved this fight. The fight was super fun to watch. I thought it was a close fight up until we got into that was the third round, right? For that one?
Yep.
And I think everybody thought it was a head kick that kind of glanced off of his head when it first went up, but that was a bad knee right to his face. I mean, that's as devastating as an ending as it comes, especially because as close as it was, I had Archuleta up 2 rounds. So that's got to be a little stinger right there for him at the end.
Yeah, man. So next steps here. Quick thoughts on Stots matching up with a winner of Higo Sabatello? Mark?
If it's Higo, I think that will be the Stots show. As I said, if it's Sabatello, which I think it will be, I think that's going to be an awesome fight, and I hope that's the one we get.
Omar?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I want it to be Sabatello because I'm kind of at a point now where I feel like it's like the immovable object versus the immovable force deal.
Irresistible.
Yes.
I don't know.
Something like that. We're not.
Something like that.
This isn't the science podcast.
Give me the scrambles between those two guys.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I think that'll be the most entertaining fight that I think we can get in the end.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along. Also on this night in the Bantamweight division in the Bellator Bantamweight World Grand Prix, Patchy Mix defeats Kyoji Horiguchi by unanimous decision. In doing so, also advancing to the second round of the Bellator Bantamweight World Grand Prix. Omar, let me start with you. What was your reaction to Patchy Mix getting it done over Mr. Horiguchi?
So a few thoughts that crossed my mind as I watched this fight. Do they test at Bellator? Was the first, right? The second was, did they weigh them properly? Because Patchy Mix, that they are not the same size. They do not even look remotely the same size.
That man's got to have light bones.
Dude,
Yeah, man.
I felt bad for Horiguchi in that fight. That looked mean to put him up against a dude who looked that big. And the grappling, dude, the grappling showed it though. I mean, that grappling is crazy. That control is wild. And poor Horiguchi did everything in his power to not get choked out in that fight. But I mean, we should give Horiguchi credit where credit is due. He spent the first round kind of getting mauled quite a bit. Then he adjusts and starts to kind of bounce in and out, doesn't really let Mix get a hold of him in the first place. But by the third round, that starts to not work as much because all Mix needs is one takedown to kind of secure the round. So now we're stuck in a place where Horiguchi kind of has an answer as to how to deal with this, but can't screw up by any stretch of the imagination, because if he gets taken down, he's going to lose that round. And it was close, man. It was a close little chess match that happened there. But I've got a lot of questions for Mix, man. I hope they're testing over there, man. That's all. I'm just gonna leave it there.
Yeah, Mark, care to share your thoughts?
Yeah, I was almost perfect here on these fights. I went 6 for 6 on the rest of these fights we've discussed to this point, but I got this one very wrong. I knew the size difference was going to be huge. I even made a point of it last week, but God, when you see it on your screen, I was immediately like, oh, fuck, maybe I shouldn't have picked Kyoji Horiguchi. Like, it was such a drastic difference. Holy hell. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, man, I don't know if Kyoji's going to be able to keep him off him the way I necessarily thought he was going to be able to. And that's more or less what the problem was. Like, granted, I did think Kyoji could create more scrambles and get up more successfully than he did. But Patchy Mix is a hell of a grappler, and it turned out that we were wrong to think that he couldn't control Horiguchi on the ground, because he absolutely could. And when they were on the feet, like Omar said, Kyoji was winning. He definitely won rounds 2 and 4 in that fight for me by doing exactly what Omar said, kind of staying away, managing to just not get grabbed. One of them he did get taken down, but he got back up. But because of the size of Mix, Kyoji couldn't even be that effective. Like, he couldn't really use his weapons on the feet even, because he had to be so careful to not get grabbed. Like, he couldn't even enter the range successfully. Yeah. So it was just a problematic matchup for Kyoji to work any of his game, really. And of course, Mix wins rounds 1 and 5. So it kind of came down to round 3, which was close, but I thought Mix did enough in that round. I scored it 48-47 for him. I didn't give him a 10-8 in round 1, even though it was dominant, because to me it was basically the same as that Aljo Yan round 1, but without like the 7 or 8 bombs that Aljo landed, and I feel like that was like the differentiator that made me have to make his a 10-8. So I didn't think this was, but I still thought Mix won the fight 48-47, and I'm honestly really impressed. I think I maybe have been underrating Patchy Mix to this point, and that was a big performance from him.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Mark, sticking with you, what are your early thoughts on Patchy Mix now matching up with the winner of Magomedov Barzola?
Yeah, it's crazy. This Bellator tournament that had like Kyoji Horiguchi in it and Sergio Pettis in it originally and so on, it's kind of quickly turned into a grappler's delight here. But it will be interesting to see Mix try to work his game against either one of those guys, against either the wrestling of Magomedov or kind of the scrambling, do-it-all ability of Enrique Barzola. So whichever one it is, it'll be an interesting matchup for him.
Omar, who do you like for Patchy Mix more, Magomedov or Barzola?
I think the Barzola one would be more fun, but I'm interested to see if Patchy Mix's control could stop Barzola from doing all this crazy shit that he likes to do. Patchy Mix has got probably one of the strongest and most painful looking body triangles I've ever seen.
Yeah,
looks awful, just god awful. And so if he's able to pull that off, I mean, people aren't getting out of there very easily. I think it took Horiguchi 5 rounds to be able to spin out once. It was crazy to watch that kind of control. So, Magomedov is trying to work a top game. Patchy Mix might very well have the type of bottom game to switch that up. But Barzola is the one who I think would put himself in a position with all of his scrambles and the craziness to get put in a position where Mix can control him. So I just think it'd be a little bit more fun fight. I think the Magomedov would kind of get stale from time to time because I think neither one of them will want to advance or risk losing a position.
I can see that.
But the Mix Barzola one is chef's kiss.
Nice.
I'll just say quick note before we move on. It's a shame that we lost Kyoji from this tournament, who we all love. But you have another huge name in Archuleta who also lost, and that would actually be a cool fight that Bellator could make in the meantime while this tournament is going on to keep Kyoji and Archuleta in there.
Love that. Love that point.
That's a good one.
Any other things you guys want to say about this fight or the Bantamweight World Grand Prix in general? Okay, moving on.
The Bantamweight division is dope. That's all I'm going to say. This is a good division that Bellator actually has.
Yeah, it's fun.
Absolutely. Okay, moving right along.